I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world, as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption. It's really warm in here. Rotisserie chicken, the miracle of the modern age. Oh, don't agree? Okay, maybe it isn't one of the seven wonders of the modern world, but through a combination of mass production technology, efficient distribution networks, and economies of scale, we can have a savory roasted dinner meat at a price equal to or even below the price of the raw ingredient in the butcher's case. Could you make a better roast chicken on your own? Arguably, yes. You can probably select a better quality bird, and you have control over what seasonings are used and how much. You have the option to brine the bird first to add more flavor and oven proofing. And you have control over how long it's in the oven and at what temperature. If you don't have a rotisserie oven, you probably won't get a crisp skin on the bottom of the bird, if you actually care about such things, since it's sitting in a roasting pan. But by serving it straight out of the oven, you have the chance of enjoying a nice crispy skin on the top and sides. And since the rotisserie chicken you buy at the supermarket has been sitting around a while, chances are pretty good that the skin isn't crispy anymore anyway. But we all know that sometimes convenience trumps quality when it's 5 o'clock at night and you don't have anything specific planned for dinner and you don't really feel like cooking tonight anyway. I get it. However, there are times when you select a roast chicken from the hot case at the supermarket and take it home with you, only to discover upon opening the plastic container that underneath that brown crusty skin lies a husk of a bird that has sat underneath heating lamps for who knows how long, and is now so dry and desiccated there's a very real chance that Brendan Fraser is about to kick in the door and try to kill it. Again. Or maybe you did roast a chicken yourself and were perhaps not so attentive to timing or heat control and pulled out something the texture of a deflated soccer ball but with bones inside. So, what do you do with Henhotep? One option is to simply throw away the inedible mess and order pizza instead. That's an option. However, some of us are balling on a budget and feel it's a shame to waste money on food we're not going to eat. Another option, of course, is to bring it back to the supermarket and demand a replacement or a refund. And you can do that. But since you just got it home and you're tired and you didn't want to deal with cooking, you also probably didn't really want to deal with the hassle of yet another half hour or more going back to the store and arguing with the store manager about the quality of their deli offerings. You want food. Now. So how do we turn King Chicken Common into something edible? Science. That's how. So let's take a look at our pitiful poultry problem.
April 22nd, 2022. 9:05 a.m. Examiner Michael Uyak performing post-mortem on subject little, chicken. Initial cause of death posited to be decapitation, but condition of the remains indicates significant time at temperatures in excess of 350 degrees Fahrenheit post-mortem, making initial incision along the keel bone. Note, significant resistance to my knife, indicating proteins are denatured to the point of a high degree of moisture loss. Yeah. muscle fibers are extremely stringy. Kind of tough. It can almost hemp-like. Conclusion, this bird is terminally overdone. Its proverbial goose is cooked. It has passed on. It has kicked the bucket. It has shuffled off this mortal coil and gone on to join the choir invisible. This is an ex-chicken.
Because the muscle fibers in overcooked meat are so tough and stringy, it makes consuming them rather unpleasant, or at least a lot of work, a lot of chewing. The juices that the bird has lost contained a lot of the flavor, so in addition to being texturally bland, or texturally unappealing rather, it's also going to be pretty darn bland. So as with all stringy meats, the answer is to cut it up, but in a very specific way, across the grain of the muscle. Now you're reducing the length of the individual fiber pieces down to a size that it's easier to break apart when chewing. Now, the moisture loss is the bigger problem. You can't really inject moisture back into it exactly because the proteins, now that they're overcooked, they've denatured, they've seized up and squeezed out all of the moisture that those fibers were holding, and they simply won't accept any liquids to make them juicy again. But now that you've cut them up and reduced the size of the pieces, what you can do is lubricate them. As you chew the now slightly less tough meat, the presence of additional fats can give you the sensation of juiciness by being a liquid, or at least semi-liquid, in your mouth, as well as allowing the bits of meat fibers to slide against each other more easily, giving you the sensation of a smoother, softer end product. So, assuming your chicken hasn't been dried to the point of actual mummification, chopping it up and adding fat and other flavor components can save it from the trash bin. Here's a few ideas I came up with for what you can do with this bird.
Okay, first things first, chicken salad. Now, this is an atypical chicken salad because I'm using a little bit more mayonnaise than I typically would. It's not only binding everything together, it's also providing that lubrication that I mentioned for the some extra dry chicken. In addition to those two, I also have some diced celery. Here I have some spices, garlic powder, onion powder, a little bit of dill, some paprika, salt, and pepper. Stir to combine and refrigerate until ready to eat. Next dish, I'm making a filling for an empanada slash calzone, depending on what you want to call it. I just have a couple of whole eggs and some cream here, mixing together to make kind of a royale, to which I'm adding some of my diced chicken, my seasonings, here garlic powder, onion powder. I'm using taco seasoning just as a cheat. It has some paprika, has some chili powder in it, some salt and pepper. Mix that up. Then add some cheddar cheese. No, I'm not measuring anything. And I have a bit more of that chopped celery sitting by, so I'm going to throw that in too for a little crunch. Mix to combine. And next, I have some ready-made pizza dough. You know what brand. Pop it out of a can. Once you manage to actually unroll this and stretch it out, just going to take my knife and cut this into quarters. You could do this with a pizza wheel as well, I suppose, but whatever. Cut it into quarters. Give myself some space to move. And then I'm going to take my filling and put a glob of it in the center of each one, like so. I'm just going to fold this over. Now, if I had actually gone with a round piece of pizza dough, then I would have probably ended up making one big calzone slash empanada. But since I got these square ones, I'm going to get smaller ones. And I don't like the tips getting overcooked, so I'm actually going to tuck them in. I want to make sure those edges are good and sealed and those corners are tucked in so nothing gets overcooked. Then just roll them over and bake at 425 degrees for about 15 minutes. Now, the next couple of ideas that I have require boiling water dough, so I have about half a cup of boiling water, to which I'm adding my seasonings directly. I want that incorporated into the dough, and it's the usual garlic powder, onion powder, and a little salt. Stir to make sure that you don't have any lumps in there, and then turn the heat off and add 1 cup of flour. And just work that until it's fully incorporated and starts to form a ball like this. Then just let it sit for a little while to cool off until you can handle it, at which point take it out and knead it for 2 to 3 minutes, mostly just making sure everything's incorporated and the dough becomes soft and pliable and stretchy. Took about half of that ball of dough, pressed it out into this rectangle, roughly, I don't know, 8 inches long by about 4 inches. Could have been bigger, but whatever. And I'm just going to put a line of the rest of those diced celery, just because I had it, and some chicken. You don't want a whole lot in this, and you'll see why in a minute. This is probably actually too much, but I made it work. What's actually going to happen here once I season it, oh, by the way, seasoning, salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and a little bit of Chinese 5 spice. Once you have that seasoned up, you're going to roll it. And I pressed it out on the board, so it's kind of have to peel it off the board, but it'll come. And you can see that this is a little too much filling. I'm having a hard time wrangling it all. But what's going to happen is you're going to roll it up and then press it out and continue rolling it up again lengthwise. It's going to get longer, and eventually those fillings are going to kind of become pressed and incorporated into the dough. Then you're going to brush it down with some oil. I'm just using olive oil because that's what I've got. Regular vegetable oil is fine. What's going to happen is this oil, hopefully, will serve as a kind of lubricant to keep the thing from sticking together when I roll it up again. I'm just going to sort of smush it into a slightly narrower roll, and then take that and sort of coil it horizontally. See what I'm doing here? And hopefully that oil will help it maintain a discrete spiral even as I sort of smash it down into a pancake. Like so. And you really want it to be thinner than this, but mine was kind of falling apart, so I left it at that. Then just toss into hot oil and fry about 3 to 4 minutes on side, or until nice and brown. And you'll see that because I oiled the layers, they don't want to stay together, so you may need to get a hand in there. Next, I'm going to make a filling for my coxina. Got some cream cheese, some cheddar cheese, the usual suspects for seasoning, salt, a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of onion powder, and some chicken. Probably could have used more, but whatever. Mix that to combine. Then I'm just taking a quarter of the remaining dough that I had, press them out into little dumpling wrappers like this, fill with my cream cheese and chicken filling, and I'm using sort of a soup dumpling technique to close these up, but basically leaving that left thumb on my left hand free to shove the fillings back in if I need to. Now, coxina are typically sort of shaped into a sort of, I'm going to call it a fig shape. You might say a pear shape, but whatever. Something pointy on top and vaguely ovoid. And just drop into hot oil and fry until golden brown delicious. And you may need to tip it over to make sure that the tip gets fried if you have shallow oil like I did.
And here we have it. I have my chicken salad, and feel free to adjust the recipe for this to your taste. This is just how I decided to make it today. Here is my chicken empanada slash calzone. It's whatever you want it to be. My sort of chicken and celery bing, kind of. This is an experiment, but the theory is sound. And the coxina. So let's start in order here. I have chicken salad. Now, the bird was dry and overcooked. And chopping it up helped. Lubricating helped with the mayonnaise. It's still a little bit tougher than you might like it, but this makes it edible rather than just sawing through that dry, tasteless chicken breast. It's better. Serve as a salad, in a sandwich, or just eat straight. It's fine. Let's cut into my chicken empanada. Now, it's the same color as the breading, so not exactly the most exciting looking. It's very soft. In fact, they probably had an opportunity to steam again inside the pastry. Probably could do with a bit more spicing than I added to this, but this was all an experiment, so I'm not mad. Yeah. Now let's try the Bing. This is a real experiment. The spring onion pancake is typically how this is made. Have chopped up green onions incorporated into the boiling water dough, brushed with oil, rolled up like this, and fried in it. If you do it right, which I didn't, but if you do it right, you end up with these concentric circles of crispy, of really, really crispy dough infused with that onion flavor. I did chicken and 5-spice. It's actually pretty tasty. Nice crunch. I think if I had actually managed to roll it out thinner before I coiled it up, it would be a much crunchier product. Probably could do with some sauce, like some hoisin or something. But it's still pretty tasty. Not bad. Now, let's try a bite of the coxina. I could just pick it up and bite it, but let's be honest. Is there anything that deep frying can't help? Wow. With the cream cheese and the cheddar cheese and the soft cooked dough that's underneath the crunchy shell. The chicken itself almost kind of disappears texturally. Everything is quite soft in the middle, so this is actually, wow, really good. Again, I was a little shy on the seasoning. The cheeses are really the predominant flavor in this. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's a little one note. I think adjusting the seasoning would be a good idea. maybe even dipping, something to dip this into, or like, I don't know, serve with some guacamole or something. These are delicious. Um, but that's the basic idea. Once you've cut those muscle fibers down so that they're easier to chew, and then lubricated them with the addition of fats, a whole world of ideas opens up for how you can use this overcooked bird. Um, so, what do you think? What other ideas would you come up with? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you here next time on Recipe Redemption. Thanks for watching. King Chicken Common. Is there anything better than that? Anox Hen Moon. Well, I've already got the hen with the hen hotep, so that's, Ramses the bird. No, that's just dumb.